Welcome to My Boulevard podcast, where we talk about everyday issues from a biblical and balanced perspective. I'm Dhati Lewis, and this season we're diving into fighting for the faith in today's culture, navigating deconstruction and reconstruction, and featuring the voices of poets, pastors, practitioners, and polymaths. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy today's episode. What's up, everybody? This is another episode of This Is My Boulevard podcast. I am here with Will Mancini. I don't know if you guys know him, but he is the man. I remember going down to Houston, when I was wrestling, Will, and I was wrestling with, all right, do I stay with Nam? Is God calling me to be Esther and stay and maintain this position and leverage it? Or is God releasing me to be Paul so I can focus on urban ministries and missions and all that? And ultimately, you were one of the people. You were one of the people on the front end of that process that I spent a day with you in Houston, and you gave me like a micro life plan there just to kind of help me make that decision. And you were a catalyst to doing what I'm doing today. So in a way, you are the reason why I'm sitting here broke with no, I'm just kidding. But I am sitting here doing my boulevard, doing what God has called me to do. So I am excited about what.
That's great. It's great. That was a really meaningful time, Dhati. It's great to be with you again, and I'm excited about the vision that God has given you and the work you're doing. So thrilled to connect with your tribe.
Yeah, well, you helped. Again, I've always had it since 2001. The Lord had placed on my heart to, like, my life's mission was to be the last generation to leave the urban context for sound discipleship. And so for my entirety of my life, I have given my life to that, wanting to be the last generation. And everything that I do, all the way from my time at Sin Network to my time now, has been that. But you were a catalyst, and you also, what I love about it, you're not just catalytic, but you also help us to think through and give people tools to take an actual next steps. And that's what's very, very fruitful for people like me to do that. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you, grateful for your work, and grateful for how the Lord has used you in my life and in the lives of so many other leaders.
I'm honored to hear you say that, and I'm inspired. What keeps me going are the great, your language. I think of it as your ultimate contribution, to be the last generation to have to leave the urban context for great disciple making stuff. And that's, I just get inspired every step of the way. So it's great to connect.
Well, I'm inspired. I'm excited. And I have a group of missionaries that are excited as well. This is where My Boulevard family, we just launched that this year. And really, we have over 50 missionaries that are committed their time, their talent, and treasure to reject passivity and accept responsibility to where they live, where they work, and where they worship, right? These are people that are poets, pastors, practitioners, polymaths, and these are leaders. And, and I get a chance to talk with them, and a lot of them listen to this podcast, and others, and people in their churches and nonprofits and businesses listen to this podcast. But one of the things that I constantly I tell them all the time is that I live my life 90 days at a time, that God has given me a big vision to be the last generation to leave the urban context. However, I live my life 90 days at a time. This episode is going to be filmed actually on December 31st of this year. And so it's just kind of like, I was just like, what better way for us to kind of go into the next year than bringing on the person that has influenced me and has helped me to think this way of living this life 90 days at a time. But before I get into like some of the tools of 90 days and why it's important and all of that, I just got to let everybody know, for those of you guys who are listening to this online, you won't be able to feel the effect. But for those of you who are watching this, you will see the beauty, because Will is giving us right now the basic white backboard. But don't let that fool you. If you would just show us the view of where you actually are right now.
It's hashtag live by design. So we're going to live by design. So my design is to live in two different places. So this is right on the Pacific Ocean. We're 90 minutes west of Santiago in Chile there. So that's my, be careful who you tell. That may be my cigar lounge down there. But yeah, enjoying life down here. My wife is from Chile, and we're
you're suffering for the Lord down there. I know how it is. So but I love it. We got a chance to talk, and just even why you're there and how you've been there, and like you started off with
Yeah.
just, and then you just keep adding on. You're adding on, but but this whole idea of like as we enter into the year 2025, right? Um, you one of the things that I took away from our time was this principle of you live your life 90 days at a time, right? This
Yep.
idea of
Yep.
90-day increments. Can you tell me why?
Yeah.
Tell like give us
Yeah.
us apologetic of why 90 days at
Yeah.
a time.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to think of it as a 90-day season of success. And 90 days is a very interesting amount of time in human functioning because it's short enough and long enough. And here's what we mean. It's long enough to have a kind of a to really get something significantly accomplished. And I'll illustrate that here in a second. But it's short enough that you can have this burst or sprint and keep running. And it is one of the rhythms in the universe. So if you look at rhythms, I mean, we've got the day rhythm, rotation of the Earth. We have the year, revolution around the sun. Well, the 90-day season really is it's a tilt of the Earth. It's a seasonal rhythm, and so you could say seasons or 90 days is really built into the fabric of the universe. But you can look at it biblically. Some of the themes of some of the feasts and some of the seasonal things that are in the kind of practice of God's people. But you can look at it very practically too, empirically. So, and boy, we could go on forever. I mean, a book came out not too long ago called The 12-Week Year, and it was a study on how why businesses can get so much done in the fourth quarter of the year. In some cases, it's like, wow, like businesses get more done in the fourth quarter than they did in the last three quarters because they're so focused all of a sudden on some outcome on a year-end accountability. And so the principle is, and it is rock solid. You can study it, look at different places, times. People have consistently testified to this 90-day season of success, a strong burst of sustained energy where you can get things, you can blow your mind. You can astound yourself with what you're capable of in 90 days. Couple
Yeah,
examples.
yeah,
You can
yeah.
you can someone sailed a monohull sailboat around the world in 90 days. You can go from the continental divide to the Pacific Ocean on foot in 90 days, right? Beethoven wrote his most famous symphony in the 1700s in under 90 days and did a lot of other things too. I mean, you can just go on and on. A Marine, you can go from a couch potato to, a battle ready Marine in 90 days. So, whatever it is that God's putting on your mind and heart, and this is what I say, it's not about working hard, it's about working focused. If you focus all of your energy on one 90-day goal, you will astound yourself with what you're capable of doing.
Oh, I love what you're saying. And I remember that time. It was just like when you first said that, and you were giving me examples. You were talking about learning a language. You can learn a language in 90 days. And you were just talking about those things. I was just like, this is amazing. And but you said at the very end, having one, excuse me. You said at the very end, having one focus, right? Focus. So the idea of priorities, like, because some people's like, yeah, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 5 90-day priorities. Like, talk
Right.
about kind of the essence of how many is too many goals,
Yeah.
and like, what's a good rule of thumb?
Yeah, and let me qualify that, Dhati, with my call has been to look at kind of the irreducible minimums. What I mean by that is, what does every human being, what will serve any human being? So it doesn't matter what your temperament is, what your personality is, doesn't matter what your spiritual gift is. Because a lot of times when people create planning toolboxes, they tend to create it based on their own wiring, right? And so I get frustrated. I'll read this guy's. I'm like, well, if you're an Enneagram 3 and driven type A, that planning process works, and you do your task list and all that. So my recommendations, my toolbox is built for human functioning, no matter what your call is, no matter what your special sweet spot is in the world. So based on that, the idea of singularity is critical. So the power of clarity begins and ends with singularity. And in the 90-day goal space, what we're going to guarantee is, people are tempted. The two things we do wrong in planning all the time. The first thing is we try to do too much. That is a given. That's a human natural instinct. It's what I do. It's what you do. It's what we all do. We get excited when we hit pause. We write a bunch of things down on paper. We get a lot of ideas, and we usually don't give enough time to get to what I call simplicity on the other side of complexity. We have complex plans. We get a lot of different things. And again, that's a human thing that there's all kinds of things we want to do, but what is the one thing I must do? So with a little extra reflection and aiming for that singularity, you're guaranteed to get more done. That's the thing. Now, will some people want to add sub goals? Sure, but I'll guarantee you, for any human being, you will get the maximum done in your life. Divide the rest of the years you have in life. I've just turned 55. Average age about 80, right? So, I got 25 more years left if I live an average age. And divide that by 4, I've got 75 90-day runs left. And I'm just saying, I know right now, in terms of the science of human functioning, the way I can maximize my life's contribution is having a big goal, really clear, every 90 days. Now, another kind of why on this, which is important, this is the ultimate life hack. Like, I don't need a planner. I don't need an app on my phone. Like, by just choosing one thing to go after, you're giving yourself the greatest opportunity for success, because write it on your mirror, keep it in front of you, right, every day, but you don't need any extra devices to execute on that. So it's just beautiful to live with that one goal at a time.
So give me an example of that, because you hear people say, "Hey, one thing, but it's just like, if life was that simple, right? Like, I can't focus on one thing, not because I don't want to, because I genuinely want to, but it's hard, like, to do that, especially if I don't have like this huge staff and huge. And so sometimes, especially as an urban practitioner, we think that's a benefit for someone that has a lot of staff and a lot of people to get things done for them, as they can focus on that one thing. But for someone like me, who is the kit and the caboodle, right? I do it all. How can you tell me to focus on one thing?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And the answer is, the 90-day goal is one part of that tool that we call the 1414, if you remember that, where you have a 3-year vision, you have a 1-year vision, you have a 90-day goal, and then you have what we call now rhythms. And so when the one goal at a time is a part of an ecosystem of thinking about where your life is headed. So it's not the only thing you're working on, but it's the one goal, the one focus to rule them all, if you will, right? So it's the most important thing. So what we do when we double click on that 90-day goal, I like to use the language of health, love, work, and play. We look at that 90-day goal through the other kind of what I call storylines of life. So everyone's got their health kind of relationship to themselves, to God, and their emotional health, all that. Everyone's got a love life, their family, relationships, friends. Everyone's got a work life, some vocational calling that they're doing, and then everyone's got kind of this play, different kinds of things. And so we do have part of the system is to say, okay, based on this 90-day goal, we've set the 90-day goal. What do I need to step into in my health, love, work, and play? So there is a little bit. There's a time for singularity and focus. There's a time to build out some rhythms. So let me give you an example of that. So right now, my 90-day goal is to shoot 30 emails to launch a new initiative I've done in a 90-day period. So that keeps me doing a lot of writing and doing that. So one of my vocational, like that's my one goal right now. But I also look at health, love, work, and play. And while I'm working on that goal, I've got some what I call now rhythms, where you look at your life and say, for the next 90 days, 12, 13 weeks, what am I going to do, either daily, weekly, maybe monthly or quarterly, and in those other spaces. But I'm looking at it through that 90-day goal that I've already developed. So I'll hit pause there to how I can explain that more. So in this case, I'm working, the unique book has about 90,000 words, and it's the whole life plan system. So one of the things I'm doing right now, while I'm working on these emails, which is my number one goal, is I've got a now rhythm in my vocational storyline, my work storyline, where I'm spending about 4 hours a week writing some smaller, unique related books on clarity. So in other words, you can kind of have these nested kind of things going on, but I never want to eclipse the biggest idea we started with and what this is about. One goal every 90 days to rule them all. That is how to get the most done with your life.
Imagine a movement where every urban neighborhood has trained, dedicated leaders sharing the gospel and making disciples. Here at Boulevard, we're building a family of urban missionaries made up of poets, pastors, practitioners, and polymaths who are transforming lives where they live, work, and worship. From launching new city hubs to strengthening existing churches and ministries, we're committed to making sound discipleship accessible in every urban context. This year, we're asking for your help to raise $50,000 in the last 50 days to fuel this mission. Your monthly commitment helps us to reach more cities, raise up more leaders, and bring gospel transformation to neighborhoods across America. Together, we can impact our cities one boulevard at a time.
I love that. All right, so here I am. It's December 31st. I'm here. Tomorrow is New Year's. I'm loving what I'm hearing, but I've never done this before in my life. What is the first step? Like if I want to kick off the year 2025, right, with trying to take the first step towards this pathway or journey, what is step number? What are the first couple of steps I can take?
Yeah, step number one is I want to vision cast to embracing what I call the 4% life. The 4% life is the simple principle. If someone were visiting, your hometown and they've never been to your town before, and you only had 2 hours to spend with them, you'd probably spend 4% of that 2 hour time thinking about how to take care of them and what you would do with them. Where are you going to go out to eat? Where are you going to drive? That kind of thing. And you do the same thing. You have a dream, someone, cut you a check to do a dream vacation, and you've got, so many hours in 7 days. You would spend 4% of that week you would have planning easily. You'd spend, 4 or 5 hours planning that week. It's the same thing with your life. So the first thing, the most important thing to do is just set aside enough time to and make it enjoyable. Some place gives you energy. Get your favorite coffee shop. Go get some time out. Go on a hike somewhere. Go to where you love to be by yourself and just embrace enough time to hit pause and do that reflection. So that's step number one. Just embrace that time. Step number two is you got to write stuff down. This is in all intentional living. The number one hack is you got to write stuff down. That's a proven principle. So prepare to write. Bring a journal. Write your thoughts down. Right. And the third big idea is don't worry about being right. Just be clear. Okay. There's not a right 90-day goal for people. There's just one that as you spend time reflecting on your life, as you pray, obviously you're spending time with the Lord, God of our lives, the God of the universe, the God of the future. And we invite him in. He's not trying to make his will difficult, right? So as we invite him in to speak, as we get settled, listen, discern, have the confidence that God will guide you. And we all have to worry a little bit of that FOMO, fear of missing out. I got so many things I want to do. And just give yourself that breathing room to find what is that one thing. And here's the question. What is the one thing that if I could get accomplished in the next 90 days would serve every other role in my life, would set me up for success in other activities? And that's where people underestimate the power of accomplishing maybe a bigger or more significant 90-day goal. It will impact the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And as I illustrated, I've got 75 more 90-day goals. So I may not need to set a goal to spend time with my daughter, this time around. I can set a work goal right now and not worry about a family goal. Or I can set a family goal, a personal goal. And you're going to have enough time to get a lot done. So those are a few tips to get started. Probably one other is, on a 90 days, if you're getting started, it is helpful to put some future context to a 90-day goal. So I like to help, to get started, do a little fast forwarding at least 3 years out. And here's what you want to do. Kind of go through the family milestones. Most of us will actually, and what's unbelievable, Dhati, is it's totally free. I mean, it's a God-given birthright that you can travel through time. Use the imago Dei. The imagination is your greatest asset as a human being. So you can time travel anytime you want. And you can go out and think about your life 3 years from now. Think about your life 3 years ago to give yourself an anchor or footing of what does 3 years feel like, and try to get into that sense of three, revolutions around the sun. And then push it out and, think about, if you have kids, how old your kids will be. Think about natural milestones, for example, my daughter's in-law is going to have a baby in April. And so if I'm thinking 3 years out, I'm thinking about my fifth granddaughter turning 2, on April 10th, in 2027. And it's free. Every app you have, I use iCal. I can go out 3 years of my iCal. So here's the first challenge: at least do a little bit of dreaming longer than 90 days. So you're not just stabbing at the future, without thinking a little bit further ahead. And what I usually do, I usually challenge people, think 3 years out long enough to where you can come up with an image. What's a picture that you would love to have as a banner for your life 3 years from now? And I usually challenge people to come up with 9 vivid description bullet points and just say, okay, what would be that ideal place 3 years from now? And when you have that context and you pushed out a little bit further, it's much easier just to lock into that next 90-day goal. I also encourage people to make a list, based on that 3-year goal. What do you want to have done a year from now? So if you're sitting there on January 1st, 2025, spend a little time thinking about January 1st, 2028. Like, just, what are the natural things that are going to, is there going to be graduations? Is there going to be weddings? What's going to happen to your parents, your children, all the relationships in your life, and just kind of, get that, kind of scale that up a little bit, extrapolate that out a little bit. Then just okay, what would be the best place to be? And I like to do 4 things. What are 4 things I'd like to see different at the end of 2025? So you are doing a little broad level mapping. At the end of the day, though, you lock and load the 90-day goal. So on January 1st, say, okay, if I could by March 31st of 2025 get one thing done, what will have the biggest impact on my life?
I love that. Thank you. That's very, very practical. So when it comes to kind of creating alignment around that, what are some of the things, like, are the landmines to that people will get caught up? I know choosing too many, but how do they end up choosing too many goals or trying to do too much? Or what are some landmines that you would say avoid in that process?
Yeah, to navigate a 90-day goal successfully, I think this gets to what you're asking. Your primary measure, the thing you'll know whether you're successful or not, is whether you 2 things. Put that 90-day goal somewhere where you see it every day. Put it on your bathroom mirror, and review it at least weekly. So have 15 minutes built into your calendar. Again, now this is where I want this for every human being. So I'm not saying do a 20, task list every day. Like, some people can handle that, some people don't, right? You mentioned poets. Like, I've never met a poet that's going to do 20 task lists at the beginning of the day, right? So, so this human functioning, it's like 50, everybody can review 15 minutes and just go, okay, how am I doing? Is my goal green light, yellow light, or red light? What did God give me this week? How did my attention flow? What was getting in the way of taking steps toward my 90-day goal? And just have that little review with yourself. And that's why I love the Psalms, Dhati. The Psalms are really paint a picture that as we're living Godward, it's not about how well you're feeling. It's really about going to God despite how well you're feeling. So it's like, man, if I had a terrible week on my 90-day goal, just go to God and just say, man, this week was terrible, and just bring all that emotions, bring it to God. Just, on your highs and lows, just bring it to God. But doing that weekly review is probably the biggest thing. What happens the most is the speed of life distracts us. And so to guarantee that you'll have at least a good chance of not getting distracted, I recommend calendar blocking at least 15 minutes. Put it in your calendar every week. Everyone listening can do that in 10 minutes. And I just keep reminding people, it's free. Like, this is you using your imagination. It's you, yourself, and God. And just hang out, get clear, counter block that thing. I calendar block it. It doesn't mean I keep it every time, but at least it's there in my way. And if I need to remove it and reschedule with myself, that's fine. You can always renegotiate and reschedule with yourself, but at least get it in the calendar. That would be that's the alignment magic, is calendar blocking once a week on that 90-day.
That's awesome. Okay.
And what's amazing to me is the beauty of the singularity is it kind of builds alignment. Now, we believe in God. And what's interesting is if you were doing this with someone who didn't believe in God, and I've worked with a lot of people, not believers, and let's say they set a 90-day goal, this is how someone talks who's not a Jesus follower. They're like, I'm amazed how the universe is conspiring to help me with my 90-day goal. And what happens is there's a truth to that, meaning when you are focused on something and it has your mental attention, you will be blown away at how many things you find that alignment kind of happens through your attention and through your focus. So you'll surprise yourself with things that you can put into play to help you move that goal forward.
I love that. I love that. All right. So we got a few more minutes to go. This has been very, very helpful. And you've talked a lot about kind of as leaders, as missionaries, personally, how do we do it? So, okay, is there anything different that you would do? It says, hey, I'm wanting to focus my ministry, my organization on 90 days. Would the process change at all if I'm trying to lead my staff, my team in a 90-day goal?
It does change. And so, yeah, it's the same tools we use. We see the same vision frame and the same, what we call horizon storyline. When there's an organization with a lot of moving parts and a team, I switch the goal to a 1-year goal. So if I'm working with a local church, we set a 1-year goal, and we have kind of 90-day sprints, but we're always looking at that 1-year goal. And that would be best practice organizationally. And I go to a lot of other organizational gurus to kind of benchmark that idea of a 90-day goal, of a 1-year goal for your organization. So it's a 1-year goal, and we have quarterly action initiatives, and it's a 1-4-1-4. So the bottom 1-4 is a one organizational goal. Let's just use an example of a church I just worked with. They're going to train 72. A church in Tampa named Mission Hill. They're going to train 72 people in 2025. It's going to be through a new training dynamic that they've created, new training thing. They've got their mission is we are broken people creating God's mosaic by meeting needs, healing hurts, and speaking His word every day. They've got 5 roles of what it means to be a mosaic maker, and they're going to train 72 people in that. What they'll do is they have quarterly action initiatives, and they have 4 of them that they'll do quarterly to drive that 1-year goal. And every 90 days, they'll reset 4 new action initiatives that are all designed to drive that 1-year goal. So that's how we do it there. And just to clarify, in the 90-day plan individually, there's that one 90-day goal. And when I mentioned those weekly now rhythms, there's 4 of those. So there's a kind of what we call 1-4 at the bottom. One goal, but you're doing activities to help drive that goal from different areas of your life or in different departments of an organization.
I love that.
Kind of hard to talk verbally. We can go whiteboard.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Whiteboard to draw it out.
I love a good whiteboard, and I know, but this is I'm picking it up conceptually, and this has been very, very hopeful for kind of this. And so if you are someone who is like, man, I would like to live my life 90 days at a time, or I would like to lead this organization, because in the same way, we're still leading it 90 days at a time, even though we have a 1-year goal that we're trying to aim with 4 different initiatives or things that we are carrying out to accomplish that, but I do feel like that there's that, that tension oftentimes of just keeping something in front of you, keeping that something in front of your team, on a consistent basis. And so, no, that this is very.
You talk about that alignment. I just want to make this one last illustration. When I was in 4th grade, I lived in Pennsylvania, and my grandfather gave me this big magnifying glass. And I'll never forget how powerful it felt to go out and in the normal sunlight, you could focus the sunlight through that to a little pinhead. And I remember as fourth grade, you're like burning rope, you're maybe finding ants on the ground, or you're doing this
Mhm.
crazy stuff. But it is to take whatever. Imagine a 6-inch magnifying glass, to take that light that feels warm on your skin, and to be able to focus it to a pinhead, it creates a fire. And that is the exact same thing with human functioning.
Mhm.
Focus expands. Focus will change your life. It's not working harder, it's working more focused. And I believe, again, the challenge will be, watch how you will astound yourself if you really decide, commit, write it down, keep it in front of you. And kind of the alignment kind of is given if you can channel that focus.
Yeah, that's good. So I know if you've written on these types of things, you've done blogs, you've done podcast, like where would you send someone to say, hey, like one, do those things, those first three easy steps that you've given us early. But if some of us want to be
Yep.
nerdy about it and get like the down in the details and get this process a little bit more in depth, where would you send them to?
Sure. Sure. I wrote a book that's available called Unique. It's YOUNIQUE, Designing the Life God Dreamed for You. So that's available on Amazon. You can get that. I'd love to give you, I actually bought back that book. I own it. I can give the content away. So we've got a chapter on the 90-day goal. So I'd be glad to give that to you to send to your listeners and get that out. So, but that'd be go to. You can go to the Unique site. There's a lot of free tools there at lifeunique.com. So again, LIFE and then unique spelled YOUNIQUE.com. So that's the place I go to start. And there's a lot of stuff out there, but we've really worked hard to put down some, as you know, Dhati, not just, I'll read books on, and I've tried to read all the books out there so that other people don't have to. And what happens is there's a lot of inspiration out there. I call it voices from the balcony. And it just gets so tired of hearing a voice from the balcony. Like, I don't want to hear a voice in the balcony. Give me the stair steps so I can go up and climb up the
Mm.
balcony. And I know you have the same heart for tools and how to. So I would just, I'm so frustrated hearing inspirational stories. Just someone show me the toolbox and how to do it. And so that's
Yes,
what we've
yes.
done in the Unique book. And that's where I'd recommend folks to start.
Amen. And I love it. Our staff has been through the Unique. We have somebody on our team that's constantly taking people through Unique on a consistent basis. I know that you had those videos on Unique, but if you have not updated it, or if you don't have kind of that, like, that's one of the things we would love to put that, even make that accessible to whatever platform that you have to sharing the videos, the content on Unique. It
Yeah,
it is a great
absolutely.
tool.
There's this free starter kit online. We've got about 8 videos. You can get started with some of our life mapping stuff, and it's a very thorough life plan process. The 90-day goal and the 90-day life that you're vision casting to is probably my favorite single part of the entire life plan system. So that's a great way to get started. But yeah, a lot of fun things it's a pretty fun playground of intentional living if you want to check out lifeunique.com. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And we are coming up to Peru. I'm trying to figure out how my wife and I is going to come. And so we can sit down with you guys and life
Yeah.
plan away so that we could make this thing work. But I appreciate you,
Yeah.
Will. Thank you.
Hey, it's great to be with you. Love your vision, and God bless everyone who's listening. Appreciate the just the incredible work of urban missionaries. I mean, reaching people where no one else will reach them. So God bless you guys.